Hey, welcome to Planet Hex. I'm Andrew Horn, as promised on the thumbnail and in the title. I'm announcing my new book. It is VHS Ate My Brain related. It's the first in a series of spin-offs, and it's called this. There you have it, VHS Ate My Brain, Heavy Metal Horrors is finally coming. It was the original sequel to VHS Ate My Brain, if you may not know that. It was originally supposed to come out years ago. It never finished. So, started over. Whole new batch of movies, whole new batch of information, lots more experience. So look out for that in late September. Right, on with the rest of the show. Let's go and check out what I found out in this week's VHS culture.
Thanks past me. That was so corny. Oh well. Welcome back to Planet Hex. We are looking at some stuff that I've been checking out this week in terms of VHS culture or related stuff. First thing we've got to talk about is Fear Street Prom Queen. Now I was looking forward to this. I enjoyed the Fear Street movies, the ones with the years on 94 and so on, that previously came out on Netflix. The first one was fantastic. The other two were not as great as the first one, but I did really enjoy that first one. And I thought it was a nice updating of the whole R.L. Stine Fear Street thing. 'Cause Fear Street was a bit more grown up than Goosebumps, Point Horror over here as well. And it had a bit more of an edge to it. So these movies are, they're quite a lot more gory and violent and explicit than you would imagine from the source material. So they're not like the source material, they are a lot harder than that. So Prom Queen is the latest one, and I enjoyed it, but I saw a lot of feedback saying it was just a standard slasher with like 80s trappings. That's the point. That literally is the point. It is a perfectly serviceable slasher. It has nick bits from other movies. The twist is so obvious. I'm not going to tell you why, but if you've seen movies of a specific era, you can see the twist coming a mile off, honestly. But it is worth watching. The lead character is really cool. Great final girl. There's a lot to love about this movie. They get a lot of the stuff is done right. I think there are a couple of music cues that wouldn't have happened by the time this movie was set. I think it's set in 1988, but a couple of the music cues that I heard in there, I think they came after 88. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think that's a little bit of an inconsistency there. But was it like as good as the previous ones? It's very different. Didn't have Sadie Sink was in the first batch, and Sadie Sink is amazing. This has a new cast, of course, different story, different place, and so on. It's still shady side, but it works together. It really hangs together as a good slasher. There's elements of all the classics in there. I did think that the killer looked a bit like the boss from Squid Game. Could just be me. Could be because it was on Netflix. I'm thinking, hang on, that looks familiar. But still, it was really cool. Do check that out if you are up for a slasher. Don't expect anything hugely groundbreaking. It's a very much Stranger Things era retro slasher full of all the 80s stuff that made that era so special and so fun. Anyway, so yes, Fear Street Prom Queen. Do go and check that out. The next thing I want to bring up here on this week's episode is this one. Stephen King's best 80s movie isn't The Shining. It's this underrated gem. Everyone talks about The Shining, and I'm pleased to see this. This is over on ScreenRant.com. I'm pleased to see this come up because everyone talks about The Shining. Everyone talks about the differences between Stephen King's vision for it and Kubrick's vision for it, and all the differences in how it was made and the things that they did and didn't like and so on. But a lot of his others do get kind of brushed aside. Things like Cat's Eye, sometimes they come back. I liked that. Maximum Overdrive to a certain extent, but there's a lot of Stephen King adaptations out there beyond just The Shining, that are very much worth your time. The original Carrie still holds up. I like the remake. Chloe Grace Moretz in the remake, replacing Sissy Spacek as Carrie, was decent. Chloe Moretz, again, it's one of the cases you get a good cast member, you get a good lead, and that's going to help your production a lot. Anyway, this piece about Stephen King's best 80s movie, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? It's not Maximum Overdrive, of course. It is The Dead Zone. So, The Dead Zone is a better Stephen King adaptation than The Shining. Yeah, David Cronenberg movie. You see Chris Walken there. Do check out this piece on screenrant.com. I do agree with this. I do tend to think I like The Shining, but it is a bit overblown. It meanders a bit. That's just personally, that's how I feel. But do check this out. This is a good piece that examines why The Dead Zone is so effective. And it is. It's a good book as well. Really enjoy the book. In fact, I might have to revisit that. I often go through a Stephen King period where I need to revisit loads of Stephen King. I'm a huge fan of his. I have been since I was a kid. First book of his I read was It. I was 12, and I took it to English class one day, and some kids were like, "Hey, sure, you should be having that here." And my teacher Helen, if I ever find Miss Byford, you were amazing. Thank you for everything. But she was like, "Are you all reading that? You're not struggling with any of it?" No, this is awesome. And was taught that if you could read it, you might as well read it. I'm all for reading. Don't ban books. That's pointless. And only serves to damage society. Anyway, that said, do check out that piece on Screen Rant. The next one I've got here is over on pastemagazine.com. This interested me because lists like this always interest me. They are always subjective. It said the 40 best anything. That's always going to be down to the individual's taste. But this is the 40 best horror movies on Amazon Prime Video right now, May 2025. And the first one on the list is, of course, a bit of a giveaway from the picture. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yep, Tobe Hooper's classic masterpiece. This is one of the most brutal mainstream horror films ever released. It is not. You don't see most of it. Anyway, what else have we got here? Night of the Living Dead, of course. You can see that on literally any streaming platform because there is no copyright to it. Hellraiser, okay. We need to talk about Kevin. Okay, that's an interesting choice. With Tilda Swinton and Ezra Miller in it. Very interesting choice. What else have we got here? Oculus. That's very high up for a film that did not perform particularly well. Although it has Karen Gillan in it and Katie Sackhoff. Great things to have in any movie. Cabin in the Woods, yeah, fair enough. We're still here with Barbara Crampton in it. Okay. Yeah, this is a good piece. So pastemagazine.com, you can find this, the 40 best horror movies on Amazon Prime Video right now. What I am finding on Prime lately is access to a lot of SOV horror. I'm really surprised at this. I am confused as to who they are expecting to watch it apart from me. So I found there was a Wave production I found on there today, and I'm just amazed. If you're not familiar with SOV horrors, it's shot on video horror from the 80s and 90s where things were made at home by just amateurs with video cameras, and they created their own scene, their own movie industry just by making stuff at home with no budget, no stars, just determination. And I love it. I'm fascinated by it. Always recommend the books Aesthetic Deviations, Bleeding Skull, and Analog Nightmares if you want to check those out and just discover an entire universe of insane films you never knew existed. But that is a decent list, is an interesting one, and one I will wholeheartedly disagree with at many points. So the next one here that I found over on bloodydisgusting.com, marvellous site. This interested me. This is a new movie, the Willowbrook tapes. The trailer has come out, and it's a found footage movie that was filmed on VHS and digital. So that I know is going to have some effective VHS atmosphere in there, because there is something real and gritty about a VHS recording. That's just how it is. There is something that's convincing about it because it is so lo-fi, and it was the medium was just intended for like personal use. It wasn't intended to make stuff with, so it looks real, believable. So that was an interesting one to look at. Do check that out on bloodydisgusting.com, and you can find out more about that movie, because I will be checking that out anyway. We've got one here on flickeringmyth.com. There's always something on Flickering Myth. that appeals to the VHS sensibilities. 10 great forgotten gems of the 1980s. This is one of those that I went to not expecting a great deal. I bet I bet a lot of these are going to be predictable. Not entirely so. So we got Body Double. Yeah, okay, that's taken my attention straight away. We've got The Wraith. That comes up on a lot of lists, but quite well deserved because it was just cool. I mean, look at the visual there. You got the Wraith, you got the car. It was a cool film, and it came with like a foil printed box. So the clamshell for it had like multicolored foil printing on it. It was so eye catching. Do check that one out. Man with Two Brains, Steve Martin comedy, yeah, good fun. Nighthawks. This is the one that took me by surprise. So we've got Sly Stallone and Rutger Hauer in it, and Billy D. Williams as well. I forgot about that. I have seen the trailer to this, but I've not seen the movie itself. So it was after Rocky, but before First Blood. Largely forgotten but sorely underrated thriller in Stallone's CV. That sounds interesting. That sounds really interesting. So that's one worth seeing. There's Road Games. It's an Australian one which always has a bit of a different vibe, but still has all the trappings of the era. It's interesting watching Australian stuff from the 80s because I'm not familiar with much of it, but the ones I've seen, it's like, oh my god, how have I missed this for so long? It's got all the aesthetics I want from that era and that I enjoy greatly from that era, but it doesn't have the familiar settings or styles or stars. Do you look up a bunch of Australian 80s movies? They are worth looking at. Running Scared. Okay. Yeah, I have a vague memory of this. Very vague memory. Mainly I remember Gregory Hines showing up in Eve of Destruction. I was thinking, mate, this is the best you could do. Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines in this one. So different choices for leads from an action movie, but well worth a look. One Deadly Summer. Okay. One from the Heart. This is a good list. Avenging Force. God, I forgot about that. Yeah, Michael Dudikoff was in that. You may remember from American Ninja. Some of you may remember from American Ninja anyway. Well worth a look. Yeah, so this is on flickeringmyth.com. Great 1980s forgotten gem films. This is not a list that is full of the usual expected stuff. Next one I found was over on The Guardian. So The Guardian warns me, this article is more than 1 month old. That's fine. I miss those days terribly. Readers share their defining video store memories. So yeah, this is from April. This piece, but if you go find it you can find it on The Guardian quite easily. And it's people with the arrival of a new video store in Brooklyn. We asked you to tell us about your most memorable anecdotes, and this is a really nice piece for anyone that misses the video store era, that has the nostalgia for it. I certainly do. You know I do. I think that's obvious by now, isn't it, really, with the books and everything. So yeah, our local video shop man got into big trouble just at the time of my birthday. Laughed like drains every week. Best job I ever had. There's some really good reminiscing on here, and it's a substantial read. Please do go and check this out and share it and let people know that this stuff is still being thought of in a positive manner. You see, I've mentioned this before, how there is a shared muscle memory, societal muscle memory. That's what I said on TV, as seen on TV, that people share where they think, oh, remember going to the video shop? And oh, yes. Straight away taken back. I remember getting the snacks. I remember always looking at the covers on the horror movies because they were always more garish than all the others. Should we get Dirty Dancing? No, let's get Anthropophagus the Beast. Are you sure? Yes, let's get Beast in Heat instead. Okay, we'll get that. And do you think Grandma will like it? Probably not. But, you know, everyone's got their stories of family and bickering with siblings in there. Or just hanging out with friends, getting something dumb. You know, getting pizzas and watching like Airheads or something like that. Why not? Airheads is fun. So this is a good one over on theguardian.com. So over in the Tri-State Video Rental Store, fighting to stay open. Sorry, this is on local12.com. In Brookville, Indiana, Cincinnati. There's my email address. So at this part, there'll be something coming over this because sites will ask you to sign in. So a couple of my email addresses are visible there. Anyway, let's get rid of that. So yes, there's a piece here on a video store trying to stay open in Indiana. There we go. Hometown Video in Brookville has managed to survive COVID and online streaming services, but its owner says he's struggling to keep it open month to month. Alan Colwell works a second job to keep the lights on when it's not there. But do have a look at this. It's interesting to see some of the businesses that are still out there. There are things out there other than just the 80s video shop that I like to visit on a regular basis. And the last one that I found for this week, I thought this was a lovely idea. A non-profit movie rental store is trying to open in Northampton, so it's Northampton in the US. This is cute. This is from March this year, and it's a really nice idea. A community wanting to open a non-profit movie rental place where people can just get movies and become part of the rebuild part of the community, because that community spirit is missing in a lot of ways. You do have to subscribe to read the rest of it, but there is a video at the top. There was when I looked at it before. Do look this up in other places then, that you don't have to go through a paywall for anyway. But that is the stories for this week. Go and build those communities. If you have some VHS buddies, get together and talk about them. Start your own clubs, not just online. If there's a space anywhere, even if it's just a big table around it in a pub, go and get together and talk about movies and trade, and see what's out there. We've got to keep this community going because it is really, really valuable to a lot of us, myself included. I really love the global VHS community, and the people that I know in person I'm hugely grateful for, not just because we get to talk movies, but because they're genuinely good people. Some of them are insane, but that's par for the course with a hobby like this. So please do keep that community going, and please do like and subscribe here on Planet Hex. Check out the VHS Ate My Brain podcast. Check out my books as well. You know what they're called by now. And the new one is on its way in late September. VHS Ate My Brain, Heavy Metal Horrors. Thank you for watching this episode of Planet Hex.